Why what works for others might not work for you. It could be an influencer on TikTok.
They want to keep that skinny body, and the way they see it is eat that 1,400 calories or whatever.
That's a bad plan. Like, that's a problem. What's your baseline?
Hey y'all, welcome to Waterbreak on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. It's good to be with you, Gabe, my wife Annie, and welcome to the new studio. Thanks for joining us.
Well, we're really excited to be here, and we're doing a solo show. We've done a lot of interviews recently, but we're talking just us today, and what we want to talk about is why what works for others might not work for you. And I'm super excited to talk about this topic because it is a problem.
It's why I've never tried the Atkins diet.
Yeah.
It would not work for me.
I mean, yeah. Well, Gabe doesn't try anything, so this actually doesn't apply to him, but it applies to a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And a lot of our listeners.
Where have you seen this just kind of come out in your training and what you've done?
Man, it's a huge
Give me some
thing,
examples.
actually. It's a huge thing. Like, anybody who sees someone else, or at least get results doing something, whether it's a diet, whether it's a form of exercise, some sort of lifestyle, intervention.
Lifting weights, whatever.
Yeah. It could be anything. And this happens all the time. It can be you seeing your husband getting results. It could be you seeing your friend. Women do this a lot. Like, well, this thing worked for my friend, so I'm going to try it, right? It could be an
intermittent fasting.
Yeah, totally. It could be an influencer on TikTok. It could be someone at work. It's just, that's what I want to talk about, is that just because something is working for someone else, or I'm going to put some of these around it, seems to be working for someone else. Maybe it works for a little while, but later it actually doesn't. That's another confounding factor. It does not necessarily mean that it's a good idea for you. And we all need to be thinkers, you guys. Be a thinker, not a stinker. That's what I tell my children.
It's our family. It's a family saying with our kids.
My 11-year-old almost every day. You got to think. You got to think about basically your specific health and nutrition context, because everybody is coming from somewhere, right? You're somewhere in there. You're not exercising. You've been dieting your whole life. You've never dieted. Like, everybody has their own special context, and you need to take that into consideration before you just go start any plan. And just because something works for somebody else does not mean it's going to work for you.
So are you going to talk specifically about dieting in this show?
I'm going to talk about food and exercise. And we'll go through some of the biggest things that you need to consider, I think, and then we'll kind of, on some of them, we can talk about diet and exercise.
So where do we start here?
Okay, so the things that you need to consider when deciding on any nutritional plan or exercise regime or anything that you might think, hey, maybe I'll start doing this, whatever it might be. The first one is you need to consider your own metabolic situation. Now, what do you think I mean by that? This is a test to see if the audience
metabolic.
Knows.
Related to how you breathe, your cardiovascular system, kind of all the main functioning systems. That's Joel Green likes to point at.
Yeah, that's like metabolic health. But what I mean here is your actual metabolism. Are you currently eating a lot? Are you currently eating just about right? Like, if you plugged your, and I've encouraged our audience to do this before, just get on the Google and look up a TDEE, Total Daily Energy Expenditure Calculator. There's a bunch of them. You could pull up a couple and compare what you get. It has you plug in your height.
Do that right now.
Yeah, do it. Talking. You'll plug in your gender, your height, your weight, your activity level, and it'll spit out. It's not perfection, but it'll give you an idea of based on you. And they're looking at your activity level, your BMR, that's your basal metabolic rate, just calories that it takes to keep your body alive, thermic effective food, and NEAT, that's your non-exercise, it's like fidgeting and stuff. And then it'll spit out a number. And for a lot of women, you can be all over the map. It might spit out 2,000 calories. That's basically what maintenance should be for you. You need to figure out, before you make any decisions about what you're going to do, are you way over that? Are you just like the, standard American, just grossly overeating, the kind of people that Sal talked about, when we had him on? Are you right around there? And if you are, great job. You're probably in a good place to do, you have a lot of options. Or are you severely under eating and not at a weight you want to be at, or at least not feeling very good?
What do you think my body fat is right now? 20%?
Oh, I have no idea, but don't do it. I would pick a different one because you don't know what your body fat percentage is. It's not going to be accurate. So pick a different one.
I'll say 20.
Okay. This is where it breaks down. I'll just guess.
Okay, so real quick, this is actually a good example. So I'm 45 years old. I'm male. I'm 6 feet 2 inches. I'm 220 pounds. And I am sedentary because it says I have an office job.
Yeah, you are.
So calories. So it's saying I can eat 2,500 calories a day?
It's saying that should be about daily expenditure that your body
of what I should be burning
is, well, it's just what it needs to live. Yeah, that should be your maintenance. Yes.
Okay, so this is not what I need to consume. It's what I'm supposed to be burning every day.
No, but that's what it means. Like that's what you should be eating.
Okay.
Like somewhere around
I
there.
see.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So 17,000 calories a week.
Yeah. I mean, and again, it's not an exact science like at all, but it'll give you an idea. So this is my point, you guys. And this is especially true for women because women are more prone to dieting their whole life one way or another. And you really need to ask yourself about this because I have had conversations with some women who are like, oh, I haven't. But then when I really, I'm not dieted my whole life. I'm not a yo-yo dieter, but it's just like, okay, in high school, did you, restrict what you ate because you wanted to lose weight and you wanted to be thin? Yeah. Okay, when you got into college, did you try a couple of diets? Did you try a meal replacement system? Did you try something from Oprah? Did you try, and they're like, oh yeah. Okay, when you're having kids, did you do, and they if you actually really think about it, so many of us have been restricting or attempting to restrict one way or another for so long that you get to your 30s or whatever, you plug your own stats into that TDEE and it's going to tell you like 2,000 calories and you're going to be like, well, I'm eating 1,400 calories and which is way less and I'm overweight. So this is what I'm saying. If you have a friend who is wanting to lose weight, they've been just feasting their entire life. They've never dieted. That has never been a thing for them. They are an overeater. They know it.
Then it's just like, just start walking.
It's sourdough. It's dessert.
Stop drinking
all the
Diet
time.
Coke
it's
or whatever.
Constant indulgence. They're
Yeah.
eating like 3,500 calories on average every day. They're not that active. A deficit for them, saying, okay, I just need to eat a little less, move a little more, is going to work really well. If you see your friend, get results and you're like, well, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And you ask her, what are you doing? She's like, well, I'm just eating, 300, 400 calories a day less. She can afford it. I'm doing a little bit of strength training. I'm moving a little bit more. It's working really well for me, right? If you, though, plug your numbers in or you just track for a while just to see where you're at and you're like, I'm overweight also, but I'm only eating 1,500 calories. I'm an undereater and I have been for a long time. And it's the sad thing is that women have underate for so long that to them, 1,500, 1,400, 1,300 often they don't know that that's not very much food. That's all they've known for a really long time. Yep. And they're like, I'm not under, like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Like they a lot of them couldn't put a number on it if they did, but if they did track and they found that, they'd be like, well, I feel like I eat plenty. Like, well, I should eat less if anything. But a deficit for that person is going to put them down even lower. Right. And that is not the right answer. Right. So this is just an example of where you are metabolically. If you have a healthy metabolic rate, if you are coming from a place of having good nutrition, being in a true maintenance place for your body, then going into a small deficit and moving a little more is probably going to work really well for you. And it's sad, less and less women, at least in the microcosm that I work in, because I remember talking to Ben Greenfield about this. He was like, well, I mean, the average American in Walmart
should just walk.
They're all just eating way too much like processed food, you know what I mean? And Sal kind of hinted to that too, and they're eating all these hyperpalatable foods. They're really calorically dense. You can't really moderate them. I think that's true out there, but the kinds of women who are in the gym setting, who are the kind of women who are going to shell out money and hire a coach are usually the kinds who care and have cared their whole life. And they've been grossly under eating. And this really matters. And if you guys are going to adopt a plan, work with a coach, anything, and they don't first tell you what's your baseline, then that's a bad plan. Like that's a problem because a deficit for somebody who's already eating 1,400 calories a day is way different for somebody who's eating like 35. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So that's a really big deal. That's a really big deal.
And part of your illustration here is you're trying to contrast. Okay, the Walmart overeater.
Yes.
Just needs
sorry, Walmart.
Yeah, sorry. The Costco overeater.
The Costco overeater.
They basically just need to eat a little less and walk a little more or something. Yeah, roughly. I mean, there's more detail there.
But it probably is going to work well for them, and they're not going to be grossly under eating to be in a deficit.
But what you're trying to illustrate to the common lady who's probably yo-yo dieted at some level, even though she might not recognize it her whole life, maybe would like to, maybe 20 pounds overweight that she'd like to be, kind of thing. Her issue, and she's been eating 1,400 calories.
If that.
Yeah. Her issue is that her body has been so used to this way of eating that she's never going to lose more weight, even if she maybe drops another 100 calories, 200 calories.
Well, she might in the short term. Yeah. But that's a really bad place to be. What the solution for her, whereas for this other friend over here who is overeating, the solution for them is to eat less, the solution for her, especially if she wants long-term health, is to reverse diet out of there and pick her metabolic rate back up. Because if you're at 1,400, a deficit, I mean, where are you going to go?
Yeah,
you're going to go down to.
It's hard to go any lower.
You're going to go down
almost,
to 12,
yeah.
and it'll work. Usually, sometimes they have to get really extreme because their body is so weight loss resistant because it's been starving for so long, and you really can depress the metabolism over time, and just get your body to a place where it's like, no. Not letting go of anything. Like, we're just going to downregulate everything. And good luck getting any fat off of this body. So some of these girls are like, I don't lose weight until I get down to 1,200, 1,100. And it's like, you don't want to be down there. Even if in the short term, you might get you're going to stay there your whole life. And then it's just going to downregulate again. And then eventually you're going to have to go even lower. It's not a good plan, right? It's not a good plan. And this is one of the hardest sells for women. It's also so hard.
It's also, I think, getting at something like your body actually needs more food.
Yes.
It's, it's the right kind of food.
Yes.
And, just maybe a little exercise goes along with it.
Yes.
But you're actually training your body back to where it should be metabolically at a healthy food level.
Oh my gosh, you guys. And
whereas before you were training your body to function metabolically way lower than it should be, because
somebody in a concentration camp. Like, let's just survive.
Yeah, right.
I mean, how many women do you see in like midlife? Because again, usually this stuff compounds over time. Even if you're crash dieting when you're younger, the real big negatives, they come for you a little later. And sometimes it's hardcore restriction with just like no breaks. And then sometimes, and this is more common, it's the yo-yo, right? You do this unsustainable starvation thing by any name. It doesn't matter. HCG, Slim Fast, whatever. And then you're like, I can't do this. I'm so hungry. You totally go off the wagon. And then you could try another thing and you go off the wagon. That's what we call yo-yo dieting. It's a thing. Our body, there's a lot of built-in mechanisms that cause us to do that because our body doesn't like being starved. But like, over time, the negatives compound. And just think, and maybe this is you listening, or how many women in their like mid 30s, 40s, mid 40s have like, they just look awful. Like, they're exhausted. They're so tired. Their skin does not look good. They have no muscle on their body. Their hair, the thinning hair, man. Oof. Like, so many of these, like brain fog, like so many of these things, like they just don't look good. And it's not like weight aside, they don't look healthy. And they don't feel good. And even though
they might even look skinny.
Yeah. Some of them might be skinny.
Their body's not healthy. Some of them might
be overweight, but it's like, you are not healthy. And what's so sad is that all of those symptoms that I just said, and there's more, are 100% can be attributed to undereating for a really long time, malnourishment for a really long time, not enough protein, not enough carbohydrate, not enough nutrients, But it's so prevalent though that it's all we do is just say it's just part of getting older.
And one of the
this is just how it is. Like, but it doesn't have to be.
One of the I don't even know if this is the right word, side effects of undereating is you're actually training your body and making it harder for you to lose weight in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, and that is one of the ironic. Here we go again. Ironic.
Is this how we use ironic in this? Yeah.
It's one of the ironic fallouts. Often is that starving yourself enough and for long enough, it can actually result in you ending up fatter than you started, or at least getting very, very, very weight loss resistant. And that's just your body. I mean, if you really take a step back and think about it, ladies, it's a built-in mechanism that God put in all of us so that we would survive. Okay. Like, it's actually not that complicated, and our bodies are very adaptive. Everybody knows this. We can adapt to just about anything. This is how you get stronger in the gym. This is how you get a suntan. I mean, our bodies are very adaptive. If they get a slow stress stimulus over time, they'll change.
If you go to a concentration camp, it'll adapt.
It'll adapt. But so you have to be a thinker. You can't just be like, one size fits all, works for her, of course it will work for me. Your metabolic context is everything. And I will say, at least in the space that I work in and with the kinds of people that come find me, I find way more women who are undereating and have a depressed metabolism because of that. And a lot of complaints, not just about weight, but in general, they just feel really poorly. Their sleep is bad, their skin is bad, their hair is bad, and they just feel like crap. There are way more of them than the women who are overeating. There's both. But the women who are overeating, it's way easier. So if just doing a little bit of a deficit and moving your body a little bit more, it gets you some results, and you're in your deficit, you're not dipping down to some terrible place, then that's great for you. But just because you have a friend that's working for does not mean that it's necessarily a good idea for you. And I really recommend that everybody plug themselves in and be honest. What do you weigh? What's your height? How active are you? All of that. Plug it into a TDE and just see ballpark what it gives you. So many women, when they do that, even if they're just moderately active,
I should be eating 1,000 more calories.
They literally are like eating 50% of what their maintenance should be. And that is from a lifetime of undereating. That is from a lifetime of undereating.
Now, how do you trust the science in that calculator?
I think it's rough.
It's rough. Okay.
It's rough. But I think it's a great guesstimate. It's free.
Okay.
And I mean, again, pull up a couple and compare. Usually they're pretty, it's all pretty close.
Okay.
And it's a thing. So, I mean, I have other points of consideration that I want to get to for you guys, but really this is the biggest one. Where you are at metabolically really, really should and does dictate whether a plan is a good idea for you. And so many women need to put in the hard work, and it is hard work, and reverse diet.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe, like, I think the last 4 girls I've worked with, or and I'm currently working with, I have them all reversing. I'm like, it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. Because there's just nowhere to go.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go, you know? So anyways, number 2, things that you need to consider before you make any kind of dietary change or, you know, workout plan is you need to consider your body type. And this is another one. This is a big one. And this is one that has been, you know, I've been doing this for a really long time. And I think my decision, I've started weighing this more heavily. I think it matters way more than I used to think that it did. And it's funny because if you take a step back and think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense that, like, okay, what this tiny little lean body might need is going to be a little different, both nutritionally, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of exercise, than this like big Samoan person over here, right? And most people are like somewhere in the middle on the spectrum, but it does make sense. Yet you still see people being like, well, my friend started strongman and they lost a bunch of weight, or my friend started CrossFit and she lost a bunch of weight, so I'm going to do it too. And again, that's not a good reason to do anything, you guys. Just because somebody else is doing something does not mean it's a good idea for you. That's true in all of life, but it's especially true here. So, and we've talked about this previously on shows. Like, if you are in a bigger, stronger body, like that's just how you came out. You're bigger boned, you're strong, you always have been. You might be a short version of that. You might be a tall version of that. But if you're just like in this bigger, stronger body, there are a lot of things that the little tiny people, like your little tiny friend, or the little tiny people in the gym, or the really lean, maybe they're taller, but like those really lean, like triathlete type people, there's going to be things that they do that works for them that is not just going to not work for you. It's going to wreck you. It's like, no, we're not talking like neutral here. We're talking like bad.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So if you have a friend or you see someone on Insta, and TikTok and Insta are funny because most fitness influencers all have a very similar type of body. If Cam McDonald was here, he'd be like, these are the activators and or the crusaders. And there's a reason for that. They're naturally lean. They're naturally athletic. They are naturally drawn to challenging, testosterone-driven, adrenaline-driven things. So that's why they all find themselves in the fitness industry. And so when they get on there and they're like, well, this works for me, and then you're like this, not that body type, and you're listening, it's not necessarily going to work for you. And one step further, it might actually do a lot of damage. So generally speaking, do you have anything you want to add or ask in there?
No. Okay. I would say now's a good time to remind our audience, make sure you guys share the show, like it. If you're listening on podcast, text it to another friend. It's really helpful for us. And if you guys want to support and advertise on our show, you can reach out to us at RenchMedia@gmail.com. So that's what I'm going to add.
Nice little plug right there in the middle. Okay, so we're talking about body type. Now, if you're one of those bigger, stronger bodies, and most of you know who you are, like,
And
most of you know who you are.
Our show with Cam, we did 2 shows with him.
Yeah, and this would have been the second one where he really got into the different health types. He's super interesting.
What's his last name again?
McDonald.
Cam McDonald.
We're getting back on.
Yeah, go back and find that show because he kind of breaks down body types pretty well.
Yeah, he does. He does. So that to say, if you're just one of those bigger, stronger bodies, and like usually you guys know who you are. Like you have bigger calves, bigger bones, big built quads. Like you've just never, for girls, it's like you've just never been a tiny girl. And even if you starved yourself, and please don't, but even if you did, you still wouldn't be a tiny girl. You'd just be like a gaunt, bigger boned person, like the big athletic swimmers, all the way down to the girls who are like, I throw the shot put because that is what I'm the best at. Like big, strong girls. Okay, if that's you, unlike the TikTok influencers, unlike them, you are probably actually going to do better on at least moderate or less protein and a lot of plants. And that's just true.
How your body's going to respond to
Yes, they naturally can have a slower metabolism. They naturally can be way more.
Well, and part of your point here is they don't need all that protein.
Totally, because they're very anabolic. And that means their body just builds really well. And we've talked about it, but man, I just don't feel like we can talk about this enough because the universal message in the fitness space right now is like
more protein.
You cannot get enough. It's like I can't even believe the recommendations I hear some people say. Some people are reasonable, but other people, it's just like, you're going to give this person they're going to literally go into kidney failure and get diabetes at the same time. And I've seen it. I've seen these people be like, I pound the protein, I feel terrible, my blood sugar is out of control because their body via gluconeogenesis can't actually turn that into sugar, and it does.
Yeah.
I'm constipated and I'm gaining weight. Like I'm literally gaining weight. And that's because you're giving this super anabolic body like the perfect building blocks to build. Right. So yeah, they're going to do better with less protein, depending on how active they are and a little probably personal experimentation. You'll have to figure out how much. Some people just needs to be moderate. It just doesn't have to be an insane amount. Other people, especially at the beginning, especially if they're coming from a place of trying to be that and they're like, I've been ketoing or carnivoring, which is like, carnivore, super high protein. Some people have to go almost completely vegan for a little bit to kind of detox, and then they can add some protein back in and they feel so much better. Like so much better. Wow. A lot of these bodies do better eating a little less frequently. They don't need to eat as often.
And you're talking bigger type bodies.
Yes, bigger, stronger bodies. Yeah, they don't need to eat as often. Some fasting, if it's wise, can work for them because again, they grow really, really well. They handle that kind of stress a little bit better than somebody else.
Like a skinnier body for fasting.
Yes, one that's really catabolic that breaks down really easily. Fasting is a disaster for them. For these bigger bodies, a lot of times the dinner should be their lightest meal of the day. Like the last thing you want to do if you have a body that grows really, really well is give it a huge
boost
feast
before bed.
They go to bed and your body's like, yes, get bigger. So, it's just, there's a lot of considerations in terms of exercise. I want to touch on exercise too. They're going to do really well with low rep, high weight strength training. Their body's made for it. It's very confidence boosting because they're very good at it. And that lower rep, super heavy stuff is not going to stimulate growth as much as that moderate to higher rep max effort stuff that is really where you get muscle build. And they are going to need a decent amount of low intensity cardio. They're not going to be able to get away with not moving. You know what I mean? The little skinny gym rats who don't need to do that. You're a lot of walking, a lot of rucking, a weighted vest. You don't need to go running 5-mile runs. Your body's probably not designed for that necessarily, but you need to get your steps in one way or another in a lower stress way that your body handles well. Okay. And then on the flip side, you get there's these smaller, leaner bodies. Most of the Instagram people or the TikTok influencers are these bodies. And so they're giving out a prescription most of the time. Some of them are just lying. They're saying they do one thing and they really are just doing Ozempic and taking a bunch of pictures in the gym. There's plenty of those too. But for the ones who are actually being honest, they're just giving out the prescription that works for them, which is the number one, come on. It drives me crazy. It's one of the number one issues in the industry is that coaches simply tell everybody to do what works for them. And that's, again, use your brain. Be a little more nuanced than that, But a lot of these smaller bodies, they do need a lot of protein because they're anabolic. They're hard gainers. They burn through a lot. It's hard to build. So they need a lot of protein. They need a lot of carbs. And a lot of times they need to eat actually pretty frequently.
So eat more meat, eat more protein.
Eat more everything. Everybody knows these people. These little tiny people who eat everything. And then the bigger people are like, I hate you. I eat half of what you eat. I'm still overweight. You're tiny. You know what I mean? And it's not fair. It's just how their body is. And they're never probably going to have metabolic issues. They're not genetically predisposed for that. You could probably get someone there, but their body is more resistant to that. But they're going to have other problems. They're going to have digestive problems. You know that phrase? Have you ever heard this? That all hot girls have gut issues?
No.
That's actually a thing. And it's actually true because the really thin, supermodel-y body types tend to have really poor digestion. And Cam talks about that too. So they have to eat small meals, really well-cooked food. They have just major gut issues.
And eat more frequently throughout the day.
Eat more frequently because they can't handle a big meal. And I've started to spot this with the people that I work with, the really thin, small, petite people. They have a hard time getting in enough food because their digestion doesn't handle it very well. So again, a totally different prescription.
Does it not handle it well because they've been yo-yo dieting also, does it not handle it well as just kind of just like a natural part of their design or something?
That's a really good question. Gut health is its own thing. And if you
see our show with Joel Green.
Totally. See our show with Joel Green that you did all by yourself. It could be a lot of things. It could be that they've eaten very poorly for a long time. And so their gut, flora and fauna is not ideal totally. But from just a genetic standpoint, some of these bodies are the types that their digestive system just didn't develop very well. And so that's kind of not really their fault. And that's just kind of something that they've had to deal with their whole life. But a lot of them are they have a lot of, kind of mental stuff. They can be anxious. They can be prone to panic attacks. They have digestive issues. Again, they're never going to probably get diabetes, but they might get osteoporosis.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has something.
Yeah, right.
You know, which again is why they need to be eating a lot. They need to be like getting all this food in because their body just is catabolic.
Because
like, catabolic.
we've seen this where some of our skinnier friends that are ladies will not have a good diet over the long haul. They want to keep that skinny body, and the way they see it is eat that 1,400 calories or whatever.
Yes, some of it's that.
And then in the long run, they could get osteoporosis because of how they've handled their dieting for 20 years.
I've talked to several women over the past month who are like, I have osteoporosis. My doctor told me about osteoporosis. What do I do? You know, and it's, I mean, so every body type has its issues that it's going to run in, that it's going to have to grapple with, and you want to be thinking long term. But the point is, they're all very different. You know what I mean? So these people are going to have to eat more often. So like the whole intermittent fasting plan for them, probably not a good plan. Yeah. Like you don't need to
fast at all.
Please stop it. That's going to do nothing for you. You need to build muscle. You need to eat. You need to figure out how to cook a variety of foods that your gut can actually handle. Like stop telling them to fast. Like that's like the worst. And if you have another friend over here who's bigger and stronger and they're not like you and they get into intermittent fasting and it works well for them, that does not mean it's a good idea for you. So again, just understanding your own context. These are also bodies on the exercise side who need they need to spend more time in the gym because they're hard gainers, right? Like they have to eat a lot. They got to pound the protein, eat the carbs, eat frequently, a lot of volume in the gym if they can stand it. And their rep scheme can be in that 8 to 20, really max effort because they're trying to build. Like they're just like, I want to, it's hard for them to build. You know what I mean? Yeah. They tend to do less cardio because they don't need it. You know, and I would say I would still touch on it like really strategically for cardiovascular health, like add some sprints in, add this in, but they don't need to be rucking every day as opposed to some of these other bodies that actually really appreciate that. They don't need it. You know, that's just going to probably break down muscle. Yeah. And I'll note another thing, and this is really big for the bigger, stronger bodies, especially the bigger and stronger you are normally often not going to handle early morning stress very well. And this is a new concept that we've been talking about. Yeah. And
again, this comes from Cam.
This
comes
from
Cam McDonald.
And then me thinking back on all the people I've trained and like everybody at 5 a.m. CrossFit and the people who are like thriving and the people who are like, I hate life and I'm 10 pounds heavier than when I started. Like it really does matter on the exercise side, not just what you're choosing to do, but when you're choosing to do it. And I would say in the morning, the more intense it is. So like CrossFit is just like my best example of like super intense. Maybe it's like, 5 miles of VO2 work or, just something like where your heart rate's just gonna be through the roof, super intense physiological signal to your body. The bigger and stronger you are, the less your body's gonna do well with that. It's gonna handle a lower stress morning and the most of your stress in the afternoon way better. Yeah. Whereas these tiny, lean little people, and if you think about who's in CrossFit class, it's like these tiny little people who yell a lot, because they're just really adrenaline driven and they're just having a great time. So again, just because that's working for them and just because that's your friend and they invite you, you can say no. You can be like, that actually is a very, very bad thing for me. And I'm going to say no, and I will meet you later. And, that's important too.
And you saw a little bit of that in your own life with working out, where you were, most of your workouts were early morning or early morning-ish. Yes. And then you started adjusting some of your workouts the afternoon, and you had more energy to finish out the evening.
Totally. Yeah. And I think I'm in between. Like I'm not on the spectrum so far that doing something in the morning is like, this is the worst idea ever. But I did notice a very drastic difference when I shifted even just a couple of my more intense workouts to the afternoon. Right. It's hard. It's a hard sell because a lot of moms in particular and dads work out in the morning because it's the best time. Right. It's before work or before the babies wake up or when your husband is home to watch the kids or just for your husband, like before work. Cause like, who wants to like, this, it's 5:30. You get off of work. Do you want to go to the gym? Right. Like you want to go home and like spend some time with your family.
You've been gone all day. The last thing I want to do is be gone longer.
It's really hard. Yeah. For some people, evening, afternoon working out works, but for a lot of people, it just doesn't. Yeah. So we're weighing a lot of things here. But if you're in really poor health, you've got a really big, strong body and something's got to change. Not just looking at what you're eating, but and how you're exercising, but look at how you can move things around, like how you can de-stress those mornings and put your more stressful stuff in the afternoon. It's a big deal. So anyways, I'm going to skip this one. Go on to the next one. Sure. Another thing that you need to consider before you make yourself a plan, as opposed to just looking at what other people are doing or what you think is working for them, is your own activity level and muscle mass. And this is a big one, okay? Because
how are you making a distinction here from body type? Big, small?
Muscle, okay, I'm talking like the muscle that you built in the gym. And some of it could be, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. So, and what that's fine. That's a good question. So when I'm saying this about muscle, and this is one of my biggest sells, why I think everybody should, within the restraints of your body type, some people can build more muscle than others. But just with whatever you can do with the body that God gave you, build as much muscle as you can. There's so many reasons why. We talk about it all the time. It's a never-ending soapbox on this podcast. But one of them, especially as you age in long term, your muscle mass is your metabolism, or it's increased metabolism, and it's your insulin sensitivity. Okay, it's your largest, number one glucose disposal organ. Okay. And managing your insulin long term is really one of the number one, factors or deciders of long-term health. Like you have to be able to manage your insulin. And muscles, I mean, a one-way ticket there. Like, so like, and if you want to be able to eat more, if you want to have a higher metabolic rate, if you're that person who's like, I'm eating 1,200 calories a day, I don't work out, I never have, I just have starved myself.
Build muscle.
Well, I mean, but you could start and then get to a point where you have a higher metabolic rate because of it, and then you can eat more. I mean, guys, it's just like, it's so important. So
you're saying muscles connected to metabolic rate.
Yes.
And you said, what was the other thing?
Insulin sensitivity.
Insulin. What do you mean
huge.
Insulin sensitivity?
I just mean your muscles, the more active muscles you have and the more active
the more sugar you can eat?
The more, I mean, the more carbs you can tolerate, 100%.
Okay.
And it just, when you have active, regularly working, regularly pumping muscles, that just means that your body, your muscles are always willing and ready to pull insulin in from, or sorry, not insulin, but blood, sugar, glucose in from your bloodstream. So your muscles are sensitive to it. They as soon as it's out there, they're like, yum, give me it. This is energy. I'm going to burn this up. I'm going to make ATP. I'm going to use it for energy. So that's what you want. This is why people with type 1 or type 2, it just depends, diabetes are, especially type 2, I'd say in this case, are told to do a bunch of air squats after they eat or go on a walk. Like it's not just about the movement. It's about the fact that your muscles are doing this, right? They're contracting, and that helps manage any postprandial spikes. So it's, so if you're looking at someone over here, like sometimes this happens to me a lot, you guys. I'm really active. I do a lot of strength training. I have a decent amount of muscle in my body. I run a lot too. So I'm doing all the things. So a lot of people are like, well, you eat, this much. And I'm like, yeah, but look what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So like how much muscle you have in your body really does matter. And if you're motivated to get your metabolic rate higher, that's one of the best ways to do it. You might need a reverse diet also, but just getting some muscle on your body, and it does, you got to eat to build muscle also. You know what I mean? That's a really big deal. Another thought is kind of on the reverse or on the flip side is, and I just did a call with someone a couple weeks ago, and she had noted she had done some intermittent fasting in like the past couple of years, just in attempts to lose weight, as many women have, because it just became really popular. And she tried it, had a little success, and then didn't. And then she came to the conclusion and told me, she was like, I don't think this is for people who are as active as me. And I was like, bingo. Yeah. Okay. Now, I am not completely anti-fasting. I have concerns about it for a lot of different reasons. But one of the biggest ones, and this is kind of just a deal breaker for me, is that it is really not conducive, especially if you're doing it aggressively, which a lot of women end up doing in order to continue to get it to work. Yeah. It is not conducive to being in the gym and exercise. Like it's not. Right. Like it's like opposite land. Right. I mean, like you're like literally not eating for extended periods of time. Yeah. Like you're not getting enough protein in, you're underfueled, you might be able to like eke out your workouts, but they certainly won't be optimal, if you're just constantly in an unfed state. So for me, that's almost just a deal breaker right there, because one of my biggest things is like everybody should be active. We need to be doing some kind of cardio for our cardiovascular health, and we need to be in there getting as strong as we can in some capacity. So why would you be like on a nutritional plan where you're just like, I'm constantly not eating, you know what I mean? Right. And she was right. Like it's not for them. And if you look at the kind of women who are having success long-term with intermittent fasting, aggressive fasting, et cetera, or even I'd say even like really low carb, I'd put that, or carnivore, I'd put that under the same umbrella. A lot of them are sedentary. Mm-hmm. They're sedentary. They're just, they're not exercising. Or if they are, it's like a few little strength routines in the gym, but you look at them and you're like,
nothing serious.
No, nothing serious. Yeah, exactly. And so like for them, it works, even though this is not what I recommend, because they're not doing anything. Like their exercise, strength training, and meaningful strength training is not a part of their life. So they're just pushing all these women towards this, even though building muscle for insulin sensitivity and reinforcing bone should be women's like number one concern as they move into perimenopause and menopause. So I just have a really hard time, what's the right word, making this all work, making the whole fasting thing work when when my number one message is like, you need to be exercising. They don't tend to go well together. Now there can be exceptions. And obviously intermittent fasting is just a very broad term. It can mean a lot of different things. If we're just talking about a 16-8, you might be fine. Like you might be fine just until you're done eating after dinner and then you just have some digestive rest. That's fine. But if you're just like really aggressively fasting, you're OMADing, things like that, that's a concern. And you might find some menopausal woman who is sedentary being like singing the praises of it. But if you are, a cycling woman, you're more sensitive to stress and you are also trying to up your exercise game as you should, it's not going to work for you. Now, it might work short term, just like going from 1,400 calories to 1,200 calories or 1,100 calories will work short term, but long term, you're going to metabolically make even more of a mess of yourself. So that's my thought on this. And my last thought, and this is also kind of on the opposite, but I just jotted it down because I think it's interesting. If you are a regular exerciser, if you're one of those people who are, I'm on the line. I try not to be, but I'm on the line. My output's pretty high. I made an Instagram post the other day just saying what my summer's workout schedule was going to be because people keep asking me because kids are home.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I looked at it and I'm just like, I enjoy it. I'm able to do it. Like my body's still able to do it. My life allows me to do it. So a lot of that is privilege, and I'm a coach. So that's a little bit of an advantage too. I'm in the gym a lot because I work there. But like the way I eat, doing that, I eat a lot.
Yeah.
When that eventually I don't do, at some point, I hope to be super active as long as I can. That's my goal. That's my plan. I like to eat a lot, move a lot. I think that's the best. You feel the best. I just, for so many reasons, it's so much funner than not moving very much and not eating very much. It is so much better. But what if I do my ACL or what if when I'm 75, it's like, I'm just not running, 8 miles on a Friday. I'm just not doing that anymore. I am going to have to adjust how I'm eating because I eat a lot right now. I'm really hungry. You're really hungry when you work out this much and you're burning it. So you can get away with it, right? I try to make it high quality food. And I think that really matters too. But to some degree, you guys, if you're on the side of like, you're young, you're just doing a ton, you're exercising a ton, keep in mind that at some point, you're probably not going to be able to do that much. And you need to be able to make adjustments in your diet like you do. And I will say this, ex-athletes, like college athletes,
college football players
are some of the absolute biggest train wrecks that I have ever worked with in my life. Like they do not age well. Like I know there's exceptions. And if you're out there, I'm sorry, maybe you're killing it. Maybe you're 35 and you're still like fit and killing it. But so many of them look for a trainer. So many of them look for nutrition help. A lot of them are overweight. Their joints are wrecked. They've had this knee, this shoulder, that, from years of doing the same, whatever sport they've been doing. They've been super active their whole life. So they could just eat whatever. It didn't matter. Fast food, this, that. They never had to pay attention to nutrition, quality of food, anything. They've always been told what to do in the gym, in their sport. Like everyone, so they can't think for themselves. They have terrible habits. They're addicted to crap. And they're like, they got married. They have 2 kids. They're 100 pounds overweight. They're like, what do I do? So watch out on both sides. Yes, be really active. Yes, build muscle. That does give you metabolism. That does give you insulin sensitivity. But also keep in mind, how active are you? Is this sustainable long-term? If you're not married yet, or you're married and you don't have kids yet, and you run 6 miles a day in order to support the way that you eat, note that season is going to come to a stop, at least for a little bit once you start having kids. Like you need to keep these things in mind, okay? Anything else you want to,
no,
does that make sense? Okay, how are we doing on time?
We got about 15.
15, okay, guys, well, this is a long informational one. I hope you're really enjoying this monologue. Okay, another thing.
And again, this is all under the category of what works for me doesn't work for you.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And there's reasons why certain things might work for someone.
Yeah.
Or even for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Or maybe a long amount of time. And it just doesn't make it a good idea for you, which we gotta consider this. So another thing to consider, you guys, before you make any choices about what you might do on an exercise front or a nutritional front, is your stress state. This is huge.
Okay.
This is huge. And this is another factor, like body type, like some of these other things that when I was younger, did not do a good job taking into account for people. or even for myself.
Yeah.
If your body is already under quite a bit of stress, and don't even get me started, women and men, really women, really bad, are very bad at recognizing all the things in their life that they're doing or situations that they're in or things that they're having to do or not do or whatever that are physiological stressors. Like they are so used to it and they're so like, I just have to do it.
Yeah.
Like, this is just how it is. There's nothing I can do about it. Like, I mean, we're talking young moms who haven't completed a REM cycle in their sleep for like 10 years. Like, that is such a stress on your body. Women who have been undereating for years and years and years. That is a huge stress on your body.
Right.
Psychological stress is a huge stress on your body. Trying to just do way too much.
Waking
Kids,
up
this,
early,
work.
going to bed late.
Yeah. All of those things are I mean, pregnancy is a stress. Postpartum is a stress. So some of these things are not bad things. They're good things. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't take its toll.
Right.
And is not a stress. Yeah. Poor sleep is huge. Relationship issues is huge. Being a caretaker for your parents. I mean, like all of these things are stressful. So if you really assess, and ladies, sit down with your husband or maybe also sit down with a good friend, someone you trust, and like, be like, okay, do you think my life is high stress? What things in my life do you think would be high stress and why? Because we are really bad at identifying it. Like we just shoulder stuff. Men do too. Men are a little better suited to it. Like your bodies don't freak out quite as, they will eventually. Everybody has a breaking point, but your bodies handle it better. But men can shoulder a ton too.
Yeah.
I just see that they handle stress a little bit better. But all this to say is that a lot of women, if you're in the baby having years, if you're caretaking parents, if you're like any of this stuff, if you're just one of those people who just can't say no, a lot of women just can't say no. So you're always doing too much and your body's just like, why are you doing this to me? That means that adding in the keto diet, adding in a bunch of fasting, waking up at 5 every morning to do whatever workout it is, sacrificing even more sleep so that you can go do something hard in the gym.
Yeah.
All of those things are stresses. Do not add more stress to an already very stressed state. And there are a lot of women that I work with who I'm just like, okay, your life is a dumpster fire right now. Like, and sometimes it's stuff that you need to change, like you need to quit your job or you need to just like drastically go in and slash. Husbands are really good at helping with that also because we're really bad at that. We're bad at saying no. We're bad at just doing less. We're bad at it.
Yeah.
But I there's a lot of women where I'm like, we're going to actually exercise less. Like the stress issue in your life is so big and bad and doing so much damage that even though theoretically strength training, good, running, great. I mean, all of these things that you would kind of put under like a healthy exercise or, a little bit of, a little bit of fasting. Great. Yeah. That's just going to be more stress and it's going to make you even less healthy. And I have seen remarkable physical and mental transformations come from literally taking things away, not adding them in. So if you see someone who, for whatever reason, their stress levels are not that bad, or maybe they have a body that is just, and some bodies do handle stress better than others, and they're doing 5 a.m. CrossFit, and they're, doing a little bit of intermittent fasting or whatever, and it seems to be working for them. If you are a ball of stress, and again, that does not just mean your mind game. You could be killing it. You could be like, just doing so well, cognitively. Yeah. But if you've got a lot of physiological stresses in your life, and a lot of these you guys, you can't control, like you can control some of them, but some of them you can't. That approach is probably going to do more harm than good because it's a stress. And you have to keep in mind that a lot of these things, exercise, certain nutrition practices, having a lot of these things, even though we look at them as healthy and good, there's still a physiological stress. And so just, it's not, CrossFit is not a good idea for everybody. Yeah, right. It doesn't matter how many calories it burns. It's not a good idea for everybody.
Yeah, and of course there's seasons where you're going to go through high stress seasons, whether it's having a kid or whatever.
Right. And sometimes you can't control that, And so literally sometimes I make runners be walkers. Yeah. I'm like, guess what? We're still going to move, but we're going to do it in a way less stressful way. We're going to walk in the sunshine and we're going to lift weights 2 times a week. Yeah. And that's it. And we're going to focus on saying no, cutting things out we can't cut out, and sleeping more. And I mean, that's transformative for so many women. Right. But again, it depends on the person. Yeah. So, some people aren't stressed enough, largely, and they're lazy and they need to get their butt out of bed and do something hard. It just depends on the person.
And largely, for women, it's usually kind of that guilt drives the more stress. I got to do this. I can't miss 100%. This kid's birthday, whatever. Yeah. For guys, it comes from maybe more of a sense of duty. You just keep piling on stress. I got to take care of my family. I got to do this. I got to do that.
Right. I just got to shoulder more. And it is counterintuitive, just like reverse dieting is, that the answer to your health problems might be the cortisol belly, the hair falling out, the just really bad health, puffiness and the moon face. That's all just like super elevated, dysregulated cortisol. It is counterintuitive that the answer to that is actually doing less, right? Like, and I understand that, just like reverse dieting, eating more in order to eventually be able to actually lose weight, but it is true, and everybody's different.
Well, and I remember, and husbands, you need to kind of tune in for your wives on this too. I remember when we first were married, we're type A, but I tend to be more extrovert. You tend to be more introvert. And then you were in college at University of Idaho. You were doing all these things. You were wrapping up your college. I had just finished my college. And I remember, you would hang with me. We'd go hang out. We had no kids.
Gosh, I could not hang
and
with
then multiple Saturdays, you would just like pass out. Like you would sleep all night.
I would sleep the
and
whole
you'd
day.
sleep until like 2 p.m. on Saturday.
I was a
and
disaster.
I thought you were. We knew something like she's sleeping, especially on Saturday. You just pass out.
At that time, Gabe, I thought that's all I knew.
Yeah.
Because
we didn't know.
I mean, I just thought that was normal.
Yeah.
I'm like, who doesn't? Yeah. I would just come out. It'd be like 2 p.m. You'd be mowing the lawn. I'd be like, okay, well, I'm awake now. I was so
this
tired.
didn't happen every Saturday, but some Saturdays she just couldn't even help. But like, I gotta sleep. I was
so tired.
And then so we finally started. I finally started tuning in. I was like, you gotta stop doing this. We gotta make adjustments here. And we didn't even really know why we were making adjustments. We just knew we need to.
We just knew I was tired, but I was exhausted.
Yeah.
That was so unhealthy.
Yeah.
I can't believe how stupid I was.
Some funny times.
Oh my gosh. So. Okay, well, just a few more here. Really, I want to finish off with, and then we can. I gotta go get the kids. Another thing you need to consider, guys, about whether something is a good idea for you or why something might be working for someone else is, this is so huge too. What were they doing or you doing before? Okay, like that sometimes is the reason something works so well. It's not even about the thing.
Yeah.
It's just about change. Our bodies respond to change really well. So if you were eating like all kinds of, crap and processed food and, the standard American diet, and then you go keto, of course you're going to get results at the start because it just cuts out so much of the crap, right? Yeah. So, but then again, if you do that for a really, really long time, you're going to have your own set of issues that you might get later. So, and then like if you were eating keto for a super long time or carnivore for a super long time and you run into those issues, your gut starts to go, your insulin, because glucagon's been elevated so much, starts to actually get out of whack. And you're like, what's happening? If you go to vegan, you're going to feel really good for at least a little while until you become anemic and your bones start breaking. But like what you were doing before so much has an effect on whether or not how well something's going to work for you. So if you see someone go to the ketogenic for the diet for the very first time and you see how great they're doing and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to lose 5 pounds in 5 days. I want, but you've been doing low carb for a really long time. You're never going to get that. Like you guys are at a different point in time coming from a different place. Yeah. And the same goes with exercise. Like if you go from only doing HIIT to like some serious, well thought out strength training, you're going to get great results. Yeah. If you go from just strength training and zero cardio and you add some in, like you might lose a couple pounds. Your body responds to change better than almost anything else. And I will just say that if you're coming from a place of, and we kind of talked about this at the start, the standard American diet, overeating, over-consuming crappy food, and you put in any intervention, it will probably work. Whereas if you're coming from I'm over-exercised, I'm under-eating, I'm doing all these other things in this other ditch over here, you're not going to get the same results. So just thinking about what you were doing before, that makes a really big difference. And if any of you guys have been doing anything for a really long time, strict carnivore, strict keto, too much fasting, only vegan, whatever it is, you need to change it.
What do you mean? What do you mean by a long time in that situation? Like 3 months, 6 months, a year?
I'd say it depends on the person, but I don't recommend anything that extreme for over like 6 months on average. Because sometimes it can be really helpful in a moment in a moment in time. Fix a gut, resensitize it, give your poor insulin a break. Like whatever it is, but. Like Joel Green talks about, I wish I could remember, he has a name for this arc where like you start an intervention, whatever it is, and it's like the honeymoon phase, you see all these benefits, and then stuff attenuates. It's like it's something inversion, I can't remember. Okay. And then you come on the other side and you actually end up with issues because it's so unbalanced, so.
Because you did carnivore for like a year, maybe it fixed something, but then now your gut's off. Yeah, it's pretty bad. You damaged your gut or whatever.
You can hear stories. I hear women be like, oh yeah, I did keto and 3 months in, all my hair fell out. It can be short. It can be short term. Maybe that woman was already under a lot of stress. You know what I mean? So that brings us to your stress.
And she tipped it over.
Yeah, that just pushed her over the edge. But so I do hear that sometimes, more so from women, because again, more sensitive to stress. But what you really hear from are the people who are like, I'm on year 3. I'm on year 4 of the OMAD, this, that. And they're like, I don't know what's happening, but it is not only not working anymore, all these bad things.
Weight. I've regained my weight. Or
it's really, really bad. Yes. Another thing to consider, and this is just sort of a couple last little thoughts, is a lot of times, I've talked about this before, but it's very interesting. Any intervention, exercise, diet, even more so, if it's your first time losing weight, is going to work really well. The body's the most primed and willing to lose weight by any strategy the first time. Okay. And there's stats out there about how many, remember what they exactly are, but how many people who have written weight loss books, and there's a billion of them out there, how many of them are first timers? Like they, they're fat or unhealthy or whatever. And then they're like, high protein. And they try it, and they lose some weight and they're like, oh my gosh, this is the answer for everybody. Whereas you get the people over here who are 50 who have lost weight, yo-yo dieted, been on the wagon, off the wagon, did this diet, fell off of it. They try that strategy, nothing. Their body's like, we've done this before. Their fat cells are like, absolutely not. So the more times you go to the weight loss well by any strategy, your body after that weight loss, especially if it's extreme or rapid, it becomes a little more resistant to it happening again. So that's another thing you need to think about, because a lot of people, even for themselves, they think back, they're like, well, gosh, back in 2000 whatever, what was I doing? I lost weight and it was just so great and it was effortless, and I've never been able to get back to there. And it's like, you may never be able to, at least doing the same things, because your body's wised up. And that's just another built-in mechanism that is by design in our bodies to help us survive. And at a different time historically, that would be really, really helpful. Famine number 1, your body's like, famine number 2, a little more insulin, more insulin sensitive, holds on to weight a little bit more. Famine number 3, like, I got this, like, don't worry, like, we're not going to die. Like, I learned something every time, and it just becomes more and more resistant, which is why yo-yo dieting is such a bad plan. And you really want to find something that is, realistic and sustainable for you long term.
Do you have any, before we wrap up, do you have any like books or, and we've pointed to a couple podcasts we've already done on this with, Cam McDonald and Joel Green on gut. But do you have any, a book to recommend on this?
Yeah, we've really talked about, well, this is what we need to do. We're going to bring Cam back on and talk about, I was texting with him a little while ago and he was like, yes, bring me back on. He just loves this stuff. But I want to talk about all the different health types in unhealth. So you take a guardian or a diplomat and you stress them out and you feed them all the wrong stuff and you have them, not just not living in flow with what their genetics would like them to be doing. You can almost become unrecognizable. Like you can be like, I don't know what I am. I don't know what's good. am I an early bird? Am I, should I be, am I vegan? Like, they're just so unhealthy, because I think a lot of people can't even recognize themselves because we're all doing all the wrong stuff and we're just so stressed out of our minds. So stay tuned for that. We'll get him back on. He's super fun. And honestly, on the diet side of the thing, everybody just needs to read The Way. You need to read The Way by Joel Green. It's the best book out there, talking about a lot of these different issues and how balance is the key. He talks about so much of this. And if you're a real nerd, read The Immunity Code. But I always
also by Joel Green.
Also by Joel Green. But I tell people to start with The Way. I just think it's the best book out there right now. And I'll tell you if I change my mind. But anyways, I think that was everything. We got through it.
Thank you, baby.
Yeah.
Well, make sure you guys share the show. And if you want to be in a conversation with us, email us at RenchMedia@gmail.com. Feel free to ask us questions. We'll eventually do a Ask me anything.
What's AHA?
I don't know. AHA.
Ask me.
AMA. We'll eventually do an AMA
we
show.
Should do an AMA. We've done that in a
please
while.
email us questions and we'll just put them on the list as we can get to them. So thank you for joining us. Follow Annie on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Bye, guys.